Hello again and welcome to another Warhammer 40k Imperial Guard Tactics video. And before we get into today's video, I would like to say a huge thank you to Eric Cruzat for sending in some awesome pictures of his Imperial Guard tank company. Here we can see the armoured might of the Imperial Guard, commanded by Eric, grinding down some heretical Black Templars. Perhaps their zealousy overtook them and they started killing everyone around them. That's what I like to think. And here we can see them being smashed by Eric's tank company. So thank you for sending these pictures, Eric. Absolutely fantastic. Always good to see a tank company in action. Really like the board setup you've got. I love the ruins with the green. Because you know what that reminds me of? I think the ruins and the green, we're actually fighting on Krieg here, and the ground is an irradiated green, soupy, gooey horribleness, and the ruined buildings are what are left over from, you know, when Krieg was, before it was irradiated and blown up by their own nuclear missile. So when you think about it like that, it all looks really, really good. So thank you for sending these pictures in. If anyone else has got any cool pictures they want me to use in my videos, please post them on my Facebook page, or you can email them to me, and there will be a link to the Facebook page and my email address down in the description box below. Without further ado, let's crack on with today's video. Now, it's only fitting that we've got Krieg on the screen today, because whilst I won't be talking about tanks, I will be talking about masses of infantry. Wave upon wave of infantry. Because you know what, guys? It's time for the annual Mordian Glory Talks About Conscripts video. That's right, you thought you'd gone a whole year without me talking about conscripts. I checked, the last one I did was like August last year, but you know what? It's time for another one. Just before the new year, it's time for the annual Mordian Glory goes all bananas about conscripts again. And I know you guys look forward to this video every single year. And I know some of you were getting a bit upset that it wasn't looking like it was going to happen. But you know what? It is going to happen. It's here right now. Quick conscript video just to help see out this year and guide us into the new year. And based on some of the crazy Tau things that have been coming down the line, perhaps your pure infantry is going to be, you know, the way to go. Beginning of 2022. We shall see. But anyway, what am I talking about? What am I talking about? Why am I talking about conscripts again? Well, for those of you that don't know, I have a bit of a love affair with conscripts. I think that despite all the nerfs and stuff that they have received, they are still a very usable unit. And even at their worst, it was still worth taking a squad of them. And that was before we had all this Cadian stuff, right? Where you could take a Lord Commissar, blah, 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 and you could order, you know, conscripts around. Well, guess what? We don't need the Lord Commissar route anymore. Because we now have the Cadian route. We have white shields. Now, for those of you that don't know what white shields are, basically, in the new Cadian supplement, I say new, it's been out, you know, a month or two now, which in 40k terms is like, that's so last month, you know, it's like, it's practically outdated. I need to take, you know, I've had 6 more books on White Dwarfs that I need to take to my battle now, but, you know, from a month ago. But in all seriousness, it is the latest supplement, basically, for Guard. And what it allows you to do is you can upgrade all white shields, all conscripts, sorry, in a detachment to white shields. And what happens when you upgrade them to white shields is they lose the raw recruits ability, which is a good thing, which means they can take orders, and they get like leadership 6 and some other stuff. But basically the main thing that we're talking about here is that they get rid of raw recruits, which means they can take orders. Because the thing that really slam dunked conscripts when they got originally just nerfed was the fact they lost essentially the reliability of being able to take orders. You could still do it on like a 4+, you roll a dice, but it just wasn't worth it. You need reliability, and especially in a situation that Guard's been in recently, where, well, I say recently, for like the last couple of years, where we've been kind of bottom of the toilet. We can't really afford not reliability. Unreliability is probably the right word to use there. We have to be able to be like, look, we're in an underdog position, so I need to know that if I do X, Y, and Z, then, you know, 1, 2, 3 is going to go off. I can't rely upon 100 roll of dice and roll a 4+. Every Guard player knows that rolling a 4+ basically means it never goes off, right? That's why our ballistic skill is, you know, that's why tank commanders are so much better than regular even Russes, because they hit on 3s and regular tanks hit on 4s. 4+s are like hitting on 6s. A lot of the time. That's just the way it is. It might not be statistical, but that is just the way it is in the Guard. So only accepting orders on a 4+ was really, really bad. And it's why conscripts were just like, you know, after they got nerfed. Which made sense why, if you took the Lord Commissar, gave him the Master of Command keyword, and he could order a unit of conscripts, and without having to do that 4+4 recruits check, it made that combo actually really good, and one that I know a lot of Guard commanders, including myself, pre-Cadian, that was why we always took a unit of conscripts in our army, because it was so useful being able to order a block of 30 infantry around the board. Just, we've talked about the tactical toolbox capabilities of being able to order units of conscripts around. You know, I've covered it in many times in both pre-Cadian and post-Cadian supplement videos. I've talked about being able to order conscripts is what makes them really, really valuable. You don't care about them killing anything. The fact that you can order 30 conscripts onto an enemy objective and they're not going to, you know, that basically means they've got to kill 30 guys or they're going to be down on primary is really, really big. Or even down on secondary, potentially they're taking stranglehold or something like that, right? So being able to order conscripts is a really big deal. Being able to now, if we go Cadian, being able to just spend CP and to give all of our conscripts the White Shields keyword is really, really good. Now, what happens if we then dial it up to 11? What happens if we just take as many conscripts as we can and we just go along the lines of, I'm going to have more bodies than you can kill, and I'm going to hold every single objective every single turn for the whole game, unless you are able to delete 360, 300, 400 models. You know, how many conscripts can we get in that situation? Well, I have used the pocket cogitator, known as my phone calculator, and the answer is actually quite funny. So what you do is you take 2 battalions. Now, this is a bit of a fun video. I have checked and double checked this, but please, someone tell me if I'm wrong here. But the White Shields stratagem doesn't say only use it once per game. It says it can be used on a detachment, but I figured that that meant that each time you spend the stratagem, it covers 1 detachment. But there's nothing stopping you from spending that, you know, from using that stratagem twice pre-game, right? Again, tell me down in the comment section below. And if I'm wrong, this whole video is a whole waste of time. But as far as I'm aware, you can upgrade multiple detachments with White Shields. You can do that. Now, you take a battalion and you give it, which allows you to take 6 troop choices, and then you take 6 squads of conscripts, and you give you make every single one of them 30 man strong. Every single one of them. That's 180 conscripts. You then have 2 company commanders, and voila, you have a battalion of 180 White Shields who can all accept orders. And thanks to the new balance patch, you can give, you know, 1 company commander can essentially issue all of them first rank fire, second rank fire for 1 order, and you've got move in the bag where you need it, right? But what if you did that again and took another 180 conscripts and another company commander? Now, some of you say, but you can't take you can't take 4 company commanders. Yeah, I know, but guess what? Cadians get Creed. I keep going on about Creed. I keep going on about him. He's a fantastic dude. He's totally gets rid of the need to take a Lord Commissar tax, and he can do 3 orders, and he's got a 12 but he's just great. Which means you can actually take 2 company commanders and 180 conscripts in 1 battalion, and you can take a company commander, Creed, and another 180 conscripts in another battalion. And all of that comes in for less than 2,000 points. In fact, if you do the maths on this, then you find that that comes to exactly 1,965 points. You've got 35 points left over, son. You've got 35 points to sprinkle in upgrades on those commanders if you want to take another character, take a priest. Have a priest running around. I think a priest might be 40 points, you might have to drop a conscript, but, you know, either way, you know, you can take a massive ordnance. I mean, what would be really interesting to know is, what is your suggestion? Put it down in the comment section below. What do you guys think you could spend those last 35 points on? That would be worth something, you know? But the point is, you're going to turn up to battle with 364 models. And you might be thinking, yeah, but don't conscripts have terrible morale? You are correct. Even with the White Shields upgrade where they get like leadership 6, they still have terrible morale. If they take a casualty, they've got to take a leadership test, okay? And there's a good chance that they could fail it. 60% chance they fail leadership even after taking one casualty in a 30-man blob, okay? But here's the thing, right? Both statistically based on Math Hammer and Theory Hammer, but also on my own frontline combat experience. That sounds really dramatic. Both of my experience going to lots of tournaments and playing games. I can tell you that morale really isn't a problem in 9th edition, and statistically speaking, morale is actually way less of a problem for bigger units. I don't remember who did it, but at the beginning of 9th edition, someone did the maths on morale, and they worked out that 30-man blobs are probably the least susceptible to morale. That's where like the sweet spot is. Well, guess what? Conscripts come in 30-man blobs. That's pretty fucking sweet. So that means you just don't worry about it. And let me tell you, like you get, your conscripts get shot up and you lose like 10 dudes, and you take a morale test and you fail it. Okay, like, big deal, right? Because then it's like, okay, I've got to roll 20 dice, but I'm not below half strength yet, so statistically I'm going to lose 3 more guys. Not really a big deal. And one thing you could definitely do with this army is you could take a bozo with Bastion's power sword and be like, everyone within 6 inches of me only fails leadership, only runs away on 1s. So you can have a whole group of conscripts crowded around this guy, and they don't even run away on 1s and 2s when you're below half strength. They always only run away on 1s. And don't forget, as guard, we've got access to the 1 CP stratagem, insane heroism, I think it's called, or inspire. It's the one in the guard codex. It's 1 CP, and you take your morale check on a D3. Now, why is that important? I'll tell you why that's important. Because it gives you a 33% chance of it counting as getting a 1 on the leadership and automatically passing. That's pretty sweet. So morale just really isn't a problem in 9th. Even if you lose a few extra guys, morale, you're really not going to care. And like I said, this army is pretty insane, because how I imagined running it is what you do, and obviously things may change because there's new missions coming out in the future, guys, new secondaries and whatnot. But how I imagined this would work is you would take something like banners, and you take something like stranglehold. So those would be like the first 2 that you sort of go for, and you just sit on primary objectives all game. But then the crazy thing is what you do for your last objective, your last secondary, is you take to the last, and you just put 30 guys in reserve, right? You just put them in reserve, and it's just like they only need to come in on like part way through the game, and you just bring them in on your board edge, because even if you put 3 squads of conscripts in reserve, which is like 90 dudes, okay, you're still starting on the board with 270. You still got enough. It's not like, oh man, if I put those 90 guys on the board, I won't have enough men for screening. No, you still have 270 blokes on the board, which is still more than enough to like run at the enemy, deny them primary every single turn, deny them their secondaries as much as possible I mean, they're going to get 15 for thin the ranks, but even so, people really, really rarely take thin the ranks. I mean, it sounds crazy that they wouldn't take it in this situation, right? And they probably would do. But there's a lot of times, especially thinking in a tournament, this is where I think this army would surprisingly do better in a tournament than it would in casual play. Because in casual play, your opponents are going to, after they face a few times, they're going to get used to it. But in tournament play, what you find with a lot of middle tier, lower tier players, regular blokes like you and I, what they do is they go into a game with a game plan, like I've done. I've talked about to the last of Stranglehold. They go in with a game plan, right? And a lot of times when you turn up to an event, people are turning up with 9th edition codexes more and more, and obviously there's more and more 9th edition codexes coming out, right? But that means they've always got a good codex one. So what you tend to find is a lot of people go into every game with, they've built their army around a set of 3 objectives, and they're the same ones they're always going to take, right? So they often don't think about they don't think a lot about their secondaries. So I can tell you the number of times when I've gone into games with pure infantry guard, with pure tank guard, and my opponent hasn't taken thin the ranks, hasn't taken bring it down, because they're in their head, they've already got their secondaries sorted out. They're going to take X, Y, and Z. They don't think to deviate from their game plan, right? Even if perhaps it would help them to. And that's what happens with a lot of players, and that's what sort of separates the really, really high tier players, because they're able to adapt on the fly really, really well as having a set game plan. You know, that's what separates, you know, your LVO winners and your GT winners and stuff like that. You know, you proper dudes, you know, the ones that are better than, you know, me and all us, you know, regular players and whatnot. So that's kind of just something I want to mention. So I think there's a really good chance that you would take this army and you'd catch people out. And I think what would essentially happen with this army is you're either going to basically deny your opponent primary every turn, move block your opponent constantly, max out your own secondaries, and max out your primary. And I think that's what's going to happen. Or it's going to shatter into a million pieces and do nothing. That's what'll happen. It's a skew list. It's an ultimate skew list. And Games Workshop, you know, as I've said time and time again, you know, Guard now has layers upon layers of strategy. You know, it's because we can now draw upon a codex, a supplement, another supplement, a balance patch that was pretty much entirely focused on us. We've got these 4 sources, these 4 layers, like onions, like ogres, you know, these 4 layers to draw upon. That now actually it's kind of, you know, the I don't know what you'd call it, like the genie's out of the bottle, Pandora's box is opened. We've got all these different crazy options that we can pull off, you know, that might actually let us win some games. I don't know if you'd win a tournament with it. I'm sure there are lots of armies out there that could simply, you know, just doesn't quite work against it. But at the same time, you know, AdMech's no longer around, really. I mean, they're still powerful, but people don't seem to take them as much. They would have had the firepower to blast this off the table. Dark Elder are probably still just able to just absolutely deal with it because they're just Dark Elder and they're utterly broken. But I do think a lot of the other top tier coaches, like Grey Knights, for example, really, you mean, they're not going to lose a lot of models. But at the same time, Grey Knights really don't have... They have volume of fire, you might say, but a lot of their volume is like Storm Bolters, right? Like Interceptors, Strike Squads. Bolters just... You just don't care about them. If you get... In the Guard, if the weapon that's shooting at you gives you an armor save, then you're pretty happy about that. You know, now obviously you've got a lot of AP -2 stuff on those Dread Knights, but I think each Dread Knight gets like 12... AP -1 shots, which you get a save against, and like 6 AP -2 shots, which admittedly you don't get a save against, but it's a lot of stuff you will get a save against, and like especially if you use things like Take Cover or Cadia Stands, there's a lot of chances you will get saved against one of those top armies. So yeah, and at the moment, especially if you look at things like what Games Workshop's doing with the Tau and with the Railguns, the reveals that came out today, like when you think about it, a lot of this stuff is really, a lot of people are going more down the route of, you know, durability and just absolute massive punching shots. So it'll remain to see. I haven't tried this list out. I know people who have tried similar lists out, and they had some great success with them. And they had success with them when Dark Elder were unnerfed and AdMech weren't out yet. And we're kind of in a situation now where Dark Elder is a little bit nerfed and AdMech have gone back into the basement. And so it might be time for something like a Conscript Span list to come out again. But this time, even more so. Even bigger Conscript Spam. So yeah, it's definitely something I'm going to be trying out. You know, next event that I go to, that's more of a local one, I'll be cracking out the Conscript Spam. No doubt. No, I mean, I've got the infantry to pull it off. You know, so it might be that I have to mix in some Mordians and Steel Legion and Krieg together. But I've got the dudes to pull this off, so definitely would be interesting to try it out. I mean, if everything's using Cadian, I guess the colours... I'm not going to go for best paint anyway if the colour scheme's a bit mixed up. So, yeah, definitely something that I'm going to be trying out. But what do you guys think? Are you guys happy that you got your Conscript video? I'm happy that I did it. I've been sitting on this one for ages. I've wanted to do it for ages. But what do you guys think? Has anyone actually tried this mad bastard of a list out? Please let us know down in the comment section below. On a more serious note, are there any other crazy combos, any other just good shit that you've been able to identify from playing games, you know, since the K supplement came out and whatnot? Anything? Share it down in the comment section below. Let me know. Because if I see something that's pretty good, I'm definitely going to be taking it to an event, you know. So anyway, hope you guys enjoyed this video. Thank you for watching. Before I sign off, as always, I want to say a huge thank you to the channel Patreon supporters. It's thanks to my Patreon supporters that I'm able to get the new supplements, you know, early on. I'm able to go to events with them and all that kind of stuff. I'm able to, you know, all the Patreon money basically goes to me going to events and whatnot and upgrading like equipment and stuff. I've got a new sound recording thing. I should have mentioned at the beginning of the video. I'm using new sound recording software. Please let me know if it sounds any better or any worse. You know, it's a thanks to that kind of, thanks to the Patreon support that I'm able to test these things out and whatnot. So massive thank you to the Patreons, and if you're interested in becoming one, there's a link down in the description below. But without further ado, I'm going to sign off today's video. Thank you for watching, and of course, I'll see you guys next time.